Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing.
Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 562 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. I hope this finds you happy and healthy and enjoying the morning or afternoon or evening or middle of the night. Whenever you have chosen to listen to this episode, I hope you're doing well. I read a quote this last week from Esther Hicks. It was pretty long, so I'm just not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to paraphrase it. Basically, it said, it's not your job to transform the world for others, but it is your job to transform the world for you. It goes on to say, make lists of things you love and never complain about anything. Easier said than done, right? But I just thought that was great because we sometimes think it's our job to make sure everyone else is okay, even if it means we aren't okay. But in the meantime, we sort of lose our way. We sort of lose who we are. And I just want to say it's always okay to stand up for yourself. In fact, it's a must. You really have to stand up for yourself because if you don't stand up for you, who is? In the last few months, I had a client who I've worked with to redo their entire home. It's beautiful, and we had mostly a fun time doing it. There was, of course, push and pull as in any project or any client that you work with for years. So when we were sort of trying to work on a final little piece, we couldn't seem to settle on a plan. Now, having worked with this client for years, I did a lot of sketching and idea shopping before we actually started any of the project. And that I often do that, but most of the time I get paid a portion up front. But with this client, I felt no need to do that. I trusted them. They trusted me. So, of course, payment was never an issue. Well, long story short, the project kind of dragged on with, I was starting to feel like I was kind of being run around because things were changing and ideas were changing, and I was having to pivot periodically to change the whole project, basically. So the last two options that I sent over got no response from my client. So I decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and send an invoice for the work done because I've done so much and it was dragging on. And when I got payment from this client, it was only a partial payment. Now, this was new to me. It's never happened before. I've never had that happen before with a client. So I just assumed in my mind that the client must not have liked any of the ideas and didn't value the time I spent, so they only paid what they thought it was worth. Not a good feeling for me, but they had a lot going on in their life at the time, and I didn't want to add to it, so I just sort of let it go. It did bother me a bit, but I honestly chucked it up to what they'd been through, because it was very out of character for that to happen. Fast forward a couple months and I get a text from the same client that had only paid a portion of the last invoice I sent, and they're asking for the number to one of my subcontractors who normally works through me. And then the client also added, "How are you? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever." So trying to be nice. So now my thought is, you've got a lot of gall to reach out and ask for this number when you still owe me money. So in my mind, I had a few options. One, I could ignore the text altogether. Two, I could just send over the number with a "I'm fine, hope you're well." Or three, I could communicate clearly with them on how I felt about the way things were left. Now, the one I wanted to do was just totally ignore it and move on, not worry about it. But that didn't feel right to me. And the easiest thing to do would have been to just give the number, exchange a few niceties, and be done, move on, forget about it. But that felt like I would be disrespecting myself by doing that, and it would not have been authentic. It would not have been genuine had I done that. So I ultimately decided to communicate clearly and lovingly with them how I felt about the situation. And that's what I did. Along with that, I also gave them the number they were asking for, which felt right. It was totally fine for them to have that. Turns out, after the communication continued, they had actually felt really agitated with the time frame of the project and felt like I was avoiding starting the project right away, so I didn't want to do it. that they felt like I must not have wanted to do it. And they had every intention of paying the whole invoice, but never heard back on the partial payment, so wasn't sure where things stood. We ended up having a very heartfelt conversation, and the total invoice was paid no problem. And now we both understand where we came from. We both feel seen, and we both feel heard. I believe that is a relationship that has been salvaged. Now, obviously, communication could have been better at the start, but the point of the whole thing is this. I did the hard option, which was to address things honestly. That was the only option that was going to clear the air for both of us. The other two options were easier, but they would have left loose ends and some hard feelings on both sides. Now, a lot of times, the hard option is ultimately the right one in the long run. I have to say, it feels really good to also stand up for myself, and my client got to stand up for themselves too. So many times we want to take that shortcut, the easy out, the less confrontational option because it's easy, or we don't want to come off as seeming aggressive. But the one thing we all always need to remember is that people will treat you exactly how you allow them to. If I don't want my time undervalued, I can't allow my time to be undervalued. And this experience taught me a pretty powerful lesson that choosing the hard option, clear, honest communication, can be such a game changer, not just in business, but in life. And let's be honest, we've all had moments where we're torn between sweeping things under the rug or facing them head on. In those moments, we often just want to avoid things and hope it goes away. But when I was deciding how to respond to that text, my stomach was in knots. Confrontation is not fun for me. It's not fun for most of us, I think. Some people like it, but not most people. There's this fear of being seen as too much or too aggressive or possibly even burning a bridge. Maybe you have felt that way too, whether it's with a client or a friend or even a family member. You worry about rocking the boat, so you lean toward the path of least resistance. But here's the thing, avoiding the tough conversation doesn't make the problem go away. It's like ignoring a leaky pipe in your house. It might seem fine for a while, but eventually it's going to flood something, probably most of your house. And what I realized through this experience is that clear communication isn't just about standing up for yourself. It's about creating space for mutual understanding. My client was not trying to shortchange me. They were frustrated too. They had their own story going on in their head just like I did. And isn't that just so human? We all walk around with our own assumptions, and without an honest conversation, those assumptions can build these walls between us. So how do you choose the hard option though without feeling like you're starting a fight? From this experience, I realized that the first thing and the one thing that I did right out of the gate that was smart and was the right thing to do was I paused before I responded. When that text came in, I did not fire back right away, even though I really felt like it. I gave myself a moment to process my emotions. And you have to really ask yourself, what's the real issue here? Am I upset because of the money? Is it the lack of communication, or is it something deeper? Getting clear on your feelings before you ever respond to anything helps you approach the conversation with intention, not just reaction. The other thing is you have to be sure to start the conversation with empathy, not accusation. When I reached out to my client, I didn't start with, hey, you owe me money. Instead, I shared how the situation made me feel, and I acknowledged that they might have their own perspective as well. I mean, you can use phrases like, I felt a bit confused when this happened, or I want to make sure we're on the same page. And that opens the door to dialogue without putting the other person on the defensive. I actually said I wanted to communicate this clearly because I value our relationship, which is very true. And then moving forward, I learned that clear boundaries have to be set. I mean, after we cleared the air, I made a mental note to set very clear expectations with clients in the future, like discussing payment terms up front, even with people I trust. I mean, boundaries are not about mistrust. They're about creating a framework where everyone feels respected. Now, maybe you're not an interior designer dealing with clients, but you maybe have had a coworker take credit for an idea that you had, or a friend who keeps canceling plans without really acknowledging how it affects you. These are all moments where you get to choose. Do I let it slide, or do I speak up for myself? The hard option, addressing it lovingly but firmly, a lot of times leads to stronger relationships and a stronger sense of self. I was really proud of both of us, how we handled the conversation. It made me feel strong and proud that I didn't just roll over. It really did. It really boosted my confidence. Choosing the hard option really does build your confidence. Every time you stand up for your worth, you're telling yourself, my time, my energy, my work, it matters. And that's not just a business lesson. That's a life lesson. It's about showing up authentically in every area of your life, whether it's with clients, with colleagues, or even with your kids. My challenge to you today is over the next week, try to identify one situation in your life where you've been avoiding a tough conversation. Maybe it's with a coworker who's been slacking, or a friend who hurt your feelings, or even a family member who keeps overstepping. Whatever it is, commit to addressing it with clear, loving communication, just like I did with my client. It freed up so much mental space for me, and it will for you guys too. I know it will. Share this with 3 people who matter in your life. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days.
Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.